Hello everyone, we are Degen Dispatch. I'm here today, I'm Kievery, and I'm here today with Jeffrey and Jennifer.
Hey.
There could be some conflict of interest, but after going through the research, going through today today is going to be about Open Ledger, this project that's been catching all the waves of the people's attention online, or especially on X. You can see here on my screen, you can see these tweets. People are talking about Open Ledger. Basically, you're just farming the snaps, getting more interactions, trying to get more. We're gonna go into some of the critique later. So we got Jennifer Dawson today here. She's the CEO and founder of KIP Protocol. It could be a conflict of interest with how Open Ledger is, which is like a bridge between AI and blockchain. It helps people share quality data and build smart AI models, but with and there's a lot of overlap with KIP Protocol. But after going through the research, we found out that it will be better to get her opinion and her expertise because she's been building in the space for such a long time, and it will be a value add to our viewers like yourself. So, could you tell us more about like a very short preamble on what KIP Protocol is and how it might be similar to Open Ledger?
Yeah, sure. I just want to say that I'm actually in charge of AI at KIP Protocol. It's Julian who's the CEO. But yeah, so what KIP essentially does is we have basically an online accounting and transaction settlement layer for AI apps and models and data and all the rest of it. So the idea is that you can buy inference, or you can sell inference, or you can sell data or whatever online and pay and get paid in crypto. So obviously there's kind of an overlap with what Open Ledger is doing here, but I guess possibly not as big an overlap as you might think, because our focus is really on kind of large scale B2B and B2G contracts, whereas I kind of get the impression that Open Ledger is more aiming for the individual market. So maybe we are targeting kind of different markets here.
So different markets. Jeffrey, what do you think? What Open Ledger is?
Well, yeah. I'm not gonna pretend I'm an expert here, but from a layman TradFi perspective, I think it's a place where people can kind of transact data. Obviously, it's a AI backing, open community. They call it open source, right? It's to do with crypto. People can buy and sell stuff, earn incentives, and yeah, pretty much. Sorry for the very lack of clear explanation.
So you think it's an open marketplace where people can transparently transact their AI products and services
And
with
data
crypto?
and get paid incentive while doing so. It's like contributing. The more you contribute, the more you get paid, so to speak.
Yeah, that seems to be what most people think. And I would like to share the tweets again that we have just now. Basically, this is what they think. It helps people share quality data, build smart AI models, data nets. It supports payable AI, meaning every time an AI model uses your data, you get credit. Seems to be what they think too. Yeah, Open Ledger, built on the optimism stack with modular data availability and smart contract support. Is this the same as what KIP protocol is?
So KIP never aimed to be a chain. I think we run on various other chains, so on Ethereum, on Arbitrum, on the Open Campus chain, Edu. But yeah, we never had any ambitions to have our own chain.
So there's no like host chain or its own new blockchain itself. KIP is just it runs on other chains.
Yeah.
Okay. So open data has this thing about SLMs. We know what LLMs are, right? Large language models. But SLMs here are specialized language models. With your AI expertise, what do you think these are? Are SLMs really something that AI experts know and talk about?
Kind of. I think there is kind of potential for decentralizing expertise, but it would be via decentralized MOE models. So that and people are actually working on that. There's what do you call it? Nose Research. They published a bunch of stuff. There's Prime Intellect that does stuff that is kind of that adjacent. The whole small language model thing never really, or specialized language model, whatever, it never really took off because the big ones were just getting better at such a rate. There was no point to focus on one specific area because, you know, why would you pay $20 for a language model that is specialized in your area when you can pay $20 for GPT and it's just as good, basically.
Would you say this is a downgrade or a con or a disadvantage of OpenLedger?
No, I'm not gonna accuse them of being a con.
No, not con as in pros and cons. Cons.
Okay.
Maybe my language is wrong here.
Yeah, I thought it was going way too hard for my liking at that point. But yeah.
Yeah, I understand the conflict of interest, and I apologize for that.
No.
Okay, maybe let's put it another way.
I think that there is potential for a decentralized MOE model at some point. Or the other alternative would be full-on personal models, so local models that. So this would absolutely this is my goal and is absolutely the goal of so many other people in the industry. So personal models that adapt using your data and kind of adapt around you. But I don't know if this is going to turn into either of those things, whether a decentralized mixture of experts or a personal model system. But yeah, I think that kind of the issue with specialist LLMs has been that for stuff where you really do want a model that is focused on a specific area with specific data that is not available to GPT. Like if you're a doctor and you want an LLM that will go through your medical records and you can't upload those to GPT for legal reasons, then it actually makes far more sense to do RAG, to do retrieval augmented generation, because A, it's a lot more economical than fine-tuning a specific model, and B, the results are actually better. If you're a non-specialist doing a fine-tune on a specific area, it's just the results are usually pretty bad.
This could be very technical. For the interest of our viewers, could you summarize what are the descriptives for LLMs over SLMs? Like, is it more rigorous? Is it more comprehensive?
An LLM, well, there is no actual technical distinction between what is a specialized language model and an LLM, really. But
okay.
Sorry to interrupt. Maybe I put it this way, right? I frame it this way. What's the difference between ChatGPT, which also has kind of a lot of specialized GPTs written, right? Like they have GPT for resume writing, data analytics, crypto, or whatever, right? Image generation. Versus like OpenLedger, which is more of a SLM, right? So we have a LLM that's specialized in a certain area versus a SLM. Like, is there a difference? Like in plain language, right? For the unsophisticated like myself.
Yeah. So as far as I know, the specialist GPTs, like the GPT-S that you get on the website, or that they had for a while. I don't actually know if they retired that or not, but yeah, the GPTs for stats and resume writing and whatever, they were prompt tuned. So basically, you put in a system prompt that gives it, or a chain of prompts that give it specific instructions. So if you have a stats model, stats app, what you're actually doing is the user uploads to the spreadsheet and asks a question. But in the back end, there's this whole decision tree that is telling the model how to respond to that. So, okay. Look at this spreadsheet. Can you answer the question based on the spreadsheet? If not, tell the user you can't. If you can, isolate the columns that you're going to need. Look at these columns, and it actually walks the model step by step through using a standardized procedure. What I think these guys are trying to do is actually fine-tune models for specific areas. So it might be like a model that is fine-tuned for medical advice, or it might be a model that is fine-tuned on legal advice or something like that, which is doable. There are a few startups that are kind of doing these things, and there are medical models exist, legal models exist, porn models exist. For a long time, the top model on Hugging Face was a thing called Deep Sex, which is just DeepSeek fine-tuned.
Did you say deep sex?
Yeah, Deep Sex.
Really?
Oh
Uh,
wow.
so
Oh wow.
the,
Okay. This
so
is
it,
really degen then.
yeah, so
Why would you get
there is kind of
demonetized for this?
space for this, but the problem is that
Who cares?
models
Let's just go with it. Deep
models
tech?
like deep research and so on, or systems like deep research and Manus and all the rest of them, they're advancing so quickly that they're kind of getting out ahead of the specialist models. So
You can see on my screen right now, we just jump right into it. These are some of the specialized applications or $10 billion apps that can be built on OpenLedger by OpenLedger themselves. These are what they recommend. On-chain Kaito, like Reddit blocks, Web3 audit agent, cursor for solidity, decentralized Coursera, decentralized Fireflies, like specialized transcription, whatever this is, meetings, okay? Yeah, like what you said, legal AI assistants, clinician assistants, like what you said, healthcare, mental health, and so on and so forth. So it is like what you said.
yeah, and a lot of these are kind of buildable by individuals at this point. You can vibe code a lot of this stuff using prompt tuning, using RAG, rather than using fine tuning. So,
But you could get ChatGPT to specialize out something for you, right? The same way. So why get something that's so specialized when you have a large language model that can do basically anything?
yeah, I mean the main use case. So people did have a lot of ideas regarding basically professions that have a deontology, like accounting, like law, like medicine, because a lot of the time the big models don't really want anything to do with that, because they're exposing themselves to legal risks if they give financial advice or they give medical advice or whatever. So I think there's a niche space for that, and then there's also a niche space for uncensored models, and not just the deep sex, the porn ones. Uncensored code models are a big market as well. So that is a use case that I can see being, a solid use case. People are constantly trying to improve porn and code. That is the two preoccupations of online humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about human biologics. Right. They have this novel concept. Sorry?
Model censorship is an issue. So people do actually want access to stable, uncensored models. Because DeepSeek, the initial iterations of V3, and I think even R1, would write pretty much totally uncensored stuff. And then it got well known, and the Chinese government sort of came along and said, look, you can't be letting people write Xi Jinping themed slash fics. You need to calm this down.
That's when they put the guardrails in place and
So DeepSeek added guardrails to the web and the API version. Yeah.
And less naughty.
Yeah.
So moving on with OpenLedger, they have this consensus model, which is proof of attribution. That means people will now be rewarded with their contributions to the platform. With open token rewards, they can earn tokens by contributing data, training models, or running nodes. Is this something that's similar to KIP Protocol?
So what we kind of do is, if you want to make a model available and get paid on chain, you can actually use our contracts to get paid. Or if you make an app available, you can use your contracts to get paid and pay your model supplier or whatever. We're not so much into kind of the training data and so on, because a massive issue with that there's two issues I think going on with the proof of attribution stuff, because a lot of crypto projects have tried to do this. The first one is for training. If people are contributing training data, you really need a proof of human in there somewhere. So it's no longer anonymous at that point, because otherwise, because how the training works basically, you don't want to have to grade each trainer, because that is not economical.
So by
Everyone
training, you mean a very simple task, right? Like trying to decide whether this is a picture of a cat or a picture of a dog. That's what you mean by training data, right?
But the problem is that the people who are doing this data tagging, usually they're not very well paid. They don't, they don't have a passion for data tagging. It's minimum wage, probably in a third world country somewhere.
Less than minimum wage.
For them, if they're not being checked up on, it makes way more sense to just tag stuff at random. You don't want to have to think about it. Just randomize it. Even get an LLM to just randomly tag. So you need a way to check up, and the companies do that using consensus. So if 9 testers say this image is a cat and then one says it's a dog, it's probably a cat. So the guy who said it was a dog, he gets fired, and the others get a reward. But the problem is, it takes a few iterations to work out who is cheating and who is actually being honest. So if you don't actually know, if you don't have proof of human, what you can do is someone in in Africa or in India or whatever, where the rewards have a higher value due to the exchange rate, he just writes a bot that creates endless accounts, tags a bit of data. He knows these accounts are going to get kicked out, but then he'll just create another one and another one. Users don't care who is providing that inference. All they care is that they get it. They don't care which model is doing it, as long as it's there.
What do you mean by inference, by the way?
That is basically the probability calculations that are used to output a sentence from an LLM.
Which is ChatGPT. Like every time you want to infer, every time you send a prompt to ChatGPT, it processes in the background, and that is an inference task. That users compute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking, it's like, you're talking about people in third world countries trying to monetize this through bots, right? It sounds very transaction driven. And maybe if the incentives are more aligned with like inference or like impact, proof of human, like what you suggested, could be a better thing, right? But I guess it's also not that easy to implement. Like how do you calculate impact? How do you even calculate that inference? Is it even possible?
Yeah, so there've been various. I mean, Tau is the big example of this. Yeah, because Tau needs to prove inference to work out which of the contributors is contributing to any given.
How do they do that? Do they get like a surveyor, to really ascertain that this task has been done and is done right?
I'm not actually sure how they do it now, because they published this really beautiful white paper about describing something that they called, I think, Yuma consensus, named after the founder. I think that guy's name is Yuma, right?
So what, people vote on the quality of the task?
Again, it was kind of working out a consensus. The consensus answer is probably the right answer, basically.
Right.
And mathematically, it was very kind of beautifully done. But then when the actual thing went live, the white paper was edited, and then it said, okay, so imagine a black box. So we don't actually know what kind of verification they're doing right now, as far as I know, unless they published a new one, and I haven't seen the latest one, but yeah. So yeah, no, this kind of attribution is an issue that a lot of people are trying to solve, just mainly for the model providers, because the idea would be that people who are mining coins before they can do something more useful than just proof of work or whatever. They can provide model compute, and that is good for everyone, and then they get rewarded for that. But
so what are some of the Degens doing? Joining the testnet, running the node, getting daily points, contribute training data. Do the Degens really care about decentralization and whether the task that they are doing is really right? Or they're just financially incentivized?
I mean, ask yourself, right? You are a degen,
So well, I mean, I'm just only concerned about the reward I get, right, in the short term. Like we don't really care about the ethos of ascertaining whether a task is being done right, verifying whether a task is done right. We don't care about that. You don't really care about the decentralization of AI on the blockchain or the property rights of certain AI creators.
Yeah, I mean, I think the plus side about Tau, for example, and more recent iterations like Flock, it's the providers, so the inference providers who are often doing it at a big scale. You know, if you're a Tau provider, then you're probably quite big to start with, and you are concerned about, you know, getting paid for your GPU capacity, essentially. So Tau kind of made aligned incentives by making sure that the miners were, you know, they had an incentive to enforce all of this. When it's contributing data, it's a lot more difficult because the people contributing data are like single individuals out there in Nigeria or whatever. So it's much harder to orchestrate anything, I think.
Mm. And how do we check, like, yeah, again, like, how do we check this data, right? Like, I don't know. It, is it even possible? Like, it could be just rubbish. Like what you were saying, the bot's just churning out.
Yeah, so I've seen various Web3 mechanisms that propose to check that data labeling is legit, whether that's via tagging, whether that's via proof of human or some other mechanism. I'm not sure what mechanism these guys are actually proposing. Do you?
Instead of building infrastructure and spelling out how they are being used, like what OpenLedger did with their blog posts, I prefer if OpenLedger really builds and markets and grows those applications into the real world. This would better solve the chicken and egg problem, I should think. I mean, this kind
Yeah.
of there's so many all-encompassing AI platforms already. You have, sorry to mention, but KIP. You have Tau. You have so many others, and now you have OpenLedger, and they are spelling out what are the applications that could be done by calling on third-party developers to build for their infrastructure. Why don't you just build out the infrastructure and use cases themselves and go and grow it in the market and prove it that this can really be done? Because the hard part isn't about spelling out what applications there are or possible, but the hard part is really growing out the applications themselves and proving that this is really an application that can be used and would become product market fit.
Getting developers in and getting them to, you know, fork the code and do their own thing with it. So that is what we've been doing, for example, with our Superior Agents project at KIP. You know, we had a summer residency hackathon program. We've had partnerships with other projects where we're co-developing. And I've just had people come to me and say, look, can I edit your agents to do such and such a thing? It is a challenge, but anyone who's making a toolkit, they have to find a way to get developers in using it. And some projects have been kind of massively successful at this. ELIZA, for example. The ELIZA repo has something crazy like 16,000 contributors, but yeah. It is a competition for mindshare between these frameworks, and it's not always the best framework in technical terms that wins. But yeah, there's a mindshare competition going on.
I understand that you're the founder of KIP Protocol. Which of these projects would best succeed, and what qualities would make them successful?
This is going to sound very bad for Web3, but in a lot of cases, it's just not being Web3, sadly. Like Open Router, they're doing a lot of what OpenLedger is doing and what KIP is doing as well. I mean, we have different audiences. Open Router, they offer inference from a ton of different models, and you can pay for it in crypto. They don't make a big deal about paying for it in crypto, but you can. And it works. And they don't have any of this complicated, you know, proof of inference, ZK, whatever. You try a model, and if you don't like it, you stop using it. It's the market, which is that is how KIP works as well. You know, you try something, and if you don't like it, the market sorts it out.
Okay.
So yeah, Open Router, I think they did a really great job at this actually.
Open Router.
Yeah. That's the company in the sector that I've been kind of most impressed by, and most of the customers are probably small businesses, because those are the guys who are going to want to be able to switch between multiple models and
So like
do that.
B2B kind of company that does infrastructure for this would be more successful.
With it, all they do is sell model inference. That's 100% of their business.
Yeah, I can see
They
how
don't
a
provide frameworks or
B2C
anything.
model might suffer. And speaking about B2C, a lot of the Degens out there, they are farming open ledger. Are they really, are they really concerned about the ethos of open ledger and what it's trying to do, about the transparency and the validity of the verification that it's trying to solve for this industry? Are they really concerned about that? It feels
Well,
like,
I don't know. I mean, I feel like farming is kind of its own subculture now. Like
yeah,
I just had a message from one of my friends who saw a website that was advertising a farming campaign. And it was, all the ads and so on are targeted specifically towards existing farmers. So it uses vocabulary and tropes and so on that farmers are going to recognize. And this guy, as a normie, he had no clue what any of this meant. He's like, so I can get some free tokens, right? How do I get my free tokens? And he
yeah,
just couldn't
download a node,
wrap his head around this really complex points method
claim
that they
10
came up with.
points.
Yeah.
So he doesn't understand what to do, but he only understands that tokens are free, essentially.
Well, he was like, he's just a normal guy, so he's like, oh yeah, if I can get some free stuff, then I'll have some free stuff. But the farming meta has just got so kind of niche and self-referential and complex now. You have to already be an expert at it, or you can't get into it at all, essentially. So yeah, the farming campaigns,
Does
so few
Jeff
of them
know
now
how to
are
farm?
actually relating to the product. It's just targeting farmers who are specialist farmers and do nothing but that. But yeah.
Jeff, I shared with you Open Ledger a few days ago, or
Yeah.
rather a week ago. Do you know how to farm Open Ledger now?
No.
Well,
I've got shit on, I've got the lie.
I mean,
the
it's
short
pretty
answer is
simple.
no, but I know degens like yourself who know how to do it. Yeah, but the way I see it is like this farming, this so-called subculture that Jennifer is talking about, it's almost like I draw parallels to the mainstream crypto world where it's like mining, right? Mining versus farming. It's same but different. It's similar in the sense that if you're not in it, you can't get it because the barriers to entry is so high, right? It's not like you're gonna build a warehouse with servers and graphics card and the crypto Bitcoin is like half life so many times already. So you're not gonna farm, you're not gonna mine much. I guess it's the same game, same thing, right? With this farming thing right now. So which explains why I don't know how to farm. Perhaps you can
I,
teach me.
yeah, it's really simple. Just claim 10 points on my screen here. And you download the node, but apparently the node doesn't work now. It downloads a Chrome extension for you. And it takes up your computer compute resource. You follow their socials, which I haven't done because I'm too lazy. Yeah, but that's basically how you farm. And also on top of this, you need to be tweeting like these people are tweeting about Open Ledger. It's kind of like very unpatronizing, very like sucking up to what Open Ledger is, which I find to be quite the conundrum and the problem with a lot of this kind of farming campaigns. But it is what it is. You have to be positive and you have to be talking about them in the right way, and then you get some audience, and then yeah, cookie down basically.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the question is, you do all this stuff, right, that you just showed us.
Yeah,
How much are you going to get paid per day? I guess some of our viewers are not familiar in
uh,
this space, wondering.
I don't think it's very much. Eventually, if you do get, but if you do get in, it should. It's not. It shouldn't be very much. It shouldn't be
Yeah, and
very much.
I think that there are some communities that inspire genuine passion and commitment. Miladies, Link Marines. Link Marines, that came out of nowhere. That was kind of amazing, really. But then every other community tries to copy the stuff that is the result of people liking those, not the liking itself. So you get these kind of simulacra of commitment.
Like a
which is
self-fulfilling prophecy, would you say?
yeah, it's sort of like every time a book or a film gets successful, you see like 20 copies of it come out. You know, Harry Potter got successful, and suddenly there were 20 other books about wizard schools. And none of them have the same success because people don't like Harry Potter because it's a book about a wizard school. They like it because it's a good book. And it's the same thing for these campaigns. People try and copy the attributes of successful campaigns, but they don't have the core part of what generated those attributes in the first part, which is attachment to the project, which the Link Marines for some reason have. Milady for some reason, God knows why, has. So yeah,
Yeah, I find that
that's
to
really the
be
challenge
the
if you're trying
problem.
to get a community. But you're saying that people are really tweeting about this, and people have a real sense of attachment to it. So yeah, maybe this is one of the successful ones.
So that's all we have today.
Cheers.
Yes.
So what we have today is a summary of what Open Ledger is. We have accounted for what Open Ledger is, and it's a good project. It might have some issues, and we have some critiques for it, like its longevity. But Degens like yourself should definitely check it out, solely because it's the thing that a lot of people are talking about right now, and it'll be good to keep abreast of what's happening in the space. That's all we have.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes.